In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that the notice of this meeting was made by posting the bulletin board at Town Hall, serving the officially designated newspapers a list of meeting dates annually, indicating this meeting will take place at the Milford Board of Education Center at 7 p.m. on March 2nd. Okay, so
Dave Bradford,
oh, sorry. Here.
Gary Rosen,
Here.
Heather Wall. Here. Melina Roberts.
Here.
Steve Cohen.
Here.
Chairman Craig Whitman.
Here. We have 7 minutes to approve of 2/2/26. Who's available to approve those?
David, Gary, Steve.
Okay, any corrections or changes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
A second. Second. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Next, we have 3 memorializations, starting with calendar 405825 Diamond Towers, 5 LLC at 137 JFK Parkway. Who do we have eligible?
Eligible is David, Gary, Beth, and Craig.
Any corrections or changes? Otherwise, I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
David Bradford,
Yes.
Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Beth Stoll.
Yes.
Craig Whitman.
Yes. Next, we have calendar 406225. Fang Zhang, 3 Ridge Terrace in Short Hills. To approve.
Eligible is David, Craig, Gary, Beth. Yep.
Okay, any corrections or changes? If not, I have a motion. Motion to approve. Second.
Second.
Thank you.
David Bradford,
Yes.
Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Beth Stoll.
Yes.
Craig Whitman.
Yes, next we have calendar 406525, Renair, 50 Farbrook. I have a motion if there are no corrections. Motion. A second?
Second.
David Bradford,
Yes.
Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Beth Stoll.
Yes.
Craig Whitman.
Yes. Okay, a couple announcements to make before we jump into our applications for this evening. First, calendar 405325, calendar 405925, which is Sam Hawksworth at 116 Cypress Street. That matter has been withdrawn. So if you're here tonight on that, it will not be heard. Also, calendar 406625, Quinn and Chang, 738 Ridgewood Road in Milburn. That application has been withdrawn and it will not be heard. So here's the big news. Calendar 407426, Little Club Tennis Center will not be heard this evening. Okay, it's going to move to April 27th. It'll be the first case heard that evening. Okay, so if you're here for that one, it's gonna move. And I'm not telling you this because I couldn't get to it tonight. There's just too much on the docket, and I will not be able to give everyone enough time. So we'll make it first on the 27th of April, and everyone will be heard. Any comments you have, questions, and there'll be a fair representation. So that's that, and there'll be no further notice
What's the date?
on that application.
April
27th. Okay.
And we'll still be in this room, right?
We'll still be here.
7 o'clock.
So I appreciate everyone coming in. We have an extension first. Yeah, so the first thing we have is calendar 396423. That is an extension of variance. Jose Valdez and Lori Huber, 353 Sagamore, come on down. We're just swear you in real quick.
Sounds good. Do you swear affirm testimony about to give information proceeding the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Your name for the record.
Jose Valdez.
So you're looking to extend your current relief that you've been given? Any changes you're making to your plans?
No changes. We've actually, over the past year, we've made a ton of progress. We have construction plans ready to go. We just need more time to find a contractor.
Okay, and you're not asking for any further variances, there'll be no further applications?
No.
Okay, any questions from the board? You need a year?
A a year would be great, that way I can guarantee I don't have to be again before you and extend, or request another extension. We're a busy, couple of professionals, we have a 2-year-old. We're doing as best as we can moving things forward. We have trouble sometimes agreeing on things, so it's just taking a little bit longer than we'd like, but, with a year, we can get this done, for sure. Last time I was here, I requested 6 months, expecting that we would need more than a year. So, I would be grateful for a year, if you could please,
The last time you asked for 18 months and gave you a year, how close are you? How close are you? It's difficult to tell for sure.
Yeah, so we're pretty much at the end of the process of the design phase. We have already proposals from a couple of contractors. We're not completely enamored with either of them. And we just need more time to really find a contractor that we like. This is our forever home, so we want to make sure that, you know, we get the right person for the job. And just given our busy schedules, we would just appreciate having the time and the slack to be able to make the proper choice while balancing all our other life obligations.
I'm leaning on giving you the year, but I think you see that the board will be losing patience at the end of that year.
Understood, yes.
Do I have a motion to approve? So moved. A second?
Second.
Was that Steve?
Steve.
And until, I'm guessing March 27 or?
I think it's from when we do the.
Yes, that'll be the second.
Okay. David Bradford,
Yes.
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Beth Zoll,
Yes.
Neil Mino Roberts,
Yes.
Steve Cohen,
Yes.
Craig Kennedy.
Yes. Get it done.
Thank you very much. We will.
Okay, next up, we have, calendar 405325. This is continued from 126. Who, is everyone eligible to vote on this?
The only one I had that was absent on as well was Steve. So.
So my guess is that, are you up to date on this or not? I mean, I don't know.
I believe our spreadsheet is not functioning.
Had the tapes, you did review tapes, right?
So,
No, okay, so you're not eligible. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 voters. Is that case here?
yes, he's on here.
Oh,
And it's behind the monitor.
no, going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotta come up here. You gotta-
On forward.
Oh, okay. I just wasn't sure.
You were previously sworn?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're under oath, so please proceed.
Yeah, so, appreciate you all hearing me now again, this evening. You know, just to short recap. Originally, we had no intent of coming before you for a variance. Found a, hardship to the stormwater drain, which restricted what we can, build in terms of the area. Because of the 36 reduction in space that we can work with, for updating the property. So since the last meeting, we've made some revisions, reduced the variance relief request that we're asking for. So hopefully, you know, what we're requesting is, you know, reasonable, just given the situation.
All right, so tell us what you want to do.
Yeah, so we're looking to do a renovation extension of the property. Due to the stormwater pipe that cuts diagonally across the property. The original plans that were compliant that we submitted.
We all know all this, right? So this
Okay.
is a recap. So let's get
Yeah,
to where you
yes.
are now going forward, because we've all been on this case.
Okay.
So tell us what changes you made, what variances you've eliminated. You're the homeowner, right?
Yes,
Okay. You're a professional here tonight or no?
yes,
Just, okay, so let's go through the plans on what you've changed. Any variances you've eliminated or minimized and go.
Yeah, so we eliminated the variance two request, which was the height of the building. That reduction in building height, eliminated the attic, so there's no attic. The previous proposal was for 2.5 story building, now it's just a standard 2 story building. There, it's under the 32 feet height, zoning, regulation. On the front setback, we had originally asked for 23.2 feet front setback. They've increased that setback to 25 feet. And so that reduction actually decreases the square footage. So the square footage is 34% versus the 36% that's allowable for the well within ordinance. Variance 3, we are still seeking that. It's an existing patio that's on a secondary front yard. With the new design of the building, the front portion of the house actually blocks the view of the patio, and so it actually reduces the non-conformity of the existing patio. It's also a smaller patio.
The patio is how far from the secondary street?
It's about 64 feet, but yeah.
Show us real quick what you want to do there.
Front elevation. This is the front elevation now. Sorry.
Go ahead, you've been previously sworn in also, so.
So the two story now have picture and we don't have that, whatever we have before, that picture, the side view.
Speak up, so we have.
The other two, right. That's actually.
So maybe just looking back to the front where in the past, in prior iteration, it was a little bit higher and with a flatter roof because of the attic. And so here you can see that, the attic has been eliminated and the roof is relatively pitched to normal architectural standards that we typically see. We believe that the aesthetics of the house matches current architectural and modern standards today, consistent with what's being developed and updated in the neighborhood. Much better than what is currently existing. Given that the property is on the notable corner of Glen and Cypress and across from Slane Field, we feel that streetscape, viewscape is dramatically improved.
Any questions from the board?
Can I just confirm, right side elevation is what you would see, I'm looking at the 201, that's what you would see from along Cypress, right? That's right side elevation. Next one,
Yes, right.
from the top,
Yes, right there.
that's what you would see from Cypress.
Yeah.
How many bedrooms is it now?
5 bedroom,
How many baths?
5.
How far is the neighbor's house off the street? The one to the Stephanie property to the left?
The front setback is 27 feet. We're requesting 25, so it's comparable. The setback on Cypress is actually 60 feet.
Yeah, I know, you're really far off that.
Yes.
Any other questions?
And you're not going any, the house already goes over the garage and the garage is staying,
Yes, yes.
and so you're not going any further over than that.
No, from the garage, not going further. It's clear.
Anything else? So I'll close the public portion. Comments from the board, what are your thoughts?
I appreciate the revision downward. Thank you for hearing what we said and regarding the sort of feeling of the third floor, the high height deck on the upper level. I think you could hear our discomfort with it last time, so I appreciate a revision to something more honest.
We all know, or I should speak for myself, I know that you have that pipe created a problem that you were unaware of, and it wasn't easy to find out that it was there. It was a, despite the due diligence, it didn't show up when we bought it, so, we all accept that creates a tricky problem dealing with it. And so I think you've done something that, given the size of the property, is gonna work fine. That's because you've got all that land that you've lost because of the pipe. I don't really have any problem. And you got rid of the FAR problem, so that makes me feel good.
Paper thought?
Yeah, I'm supportive of it. I think, we haven't talked a lot about requirements for a variance, but I do think there is a hardship here. And I think, the positive and negative criteria are met. I also appreciate the changes that have been made. And I think the house is much more, as proposed, is much more consistent with what you see in the neighborhood, opposed to what you see in the last.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to the proofs, you do have a hardship case here from a C1 perspective. And a flexible C, I would say the lot can accommodate the massing, so I think you're there. I do think the new design is far better in keeping with the streetscape that's there now. And while the setback I don't love it, limited, you're kind of close to your neighbor's setback, so there's no reason to have a disproportionately high setback. So I too would support this application. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, calendar 4053-25.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
David Bradford,
Yes.
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Beth Dahl,
Yes.
Yolanda Roberts.
Yeah.
Craig Clay.
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Thank you, appreciate it so much.
Sorry not to see you monthly.
Next up, we have calendar 4064-25, 42 Campbell Road. How many speakers you got tonight, Tim?
4 of us.
4? Okay.
You have a plan?
Yeah, let's swear you all in one shot then. Go ahead, Eric.
Do you swear from testimony about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Go, names.
Yeah.
That,
I
get your name?
Ian Law.
Just, do we have her name?
Yeah.
Okay.
YANG, that's it.
Yes.
Hyman Young.
Mallory Clark.
Timothy Kless.
You ready? Or-
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'm gonna start. So my name is Jaime. This is my wife, Ying. We bought our house 80 years ago. We have 2 daughters. So we bought the house when they were very little. My older one was 5 years old, younger one was 3 years old. So now they are like my older one almost 14 years old, and she's gonna go to the Milburn High School next year. My younger one gonna go to the middle school. So right now I think the house is a little bit too small for them. So we only have 3 beds, only 1 bathroom. And also like my father-in-law passed away last year. So my wife is the only child in the family. So my mom-in-law is gonna move in with us to live with us. So in order for my 2 daughters, my mother-in-law, and us to live together in that house, so we want to make a little bit bigger so that we can have 1 bedroom for my mom-in-law, and we can have like
two different bathrooms. Yes, so we need like individual bedroom for our daughters and mom. We do love the neighborhood a lot, and my daughters enjoy the schools, the neighborhood, the friends a lot, so we plan to live here for very. Thanks. So that's why we have a team to design the new house and to make it better.
Yeah, so my name is Tim Klesse. I'm a licensed architect in New Jersey and New York, and been licensed for about 30 years, and my license is in good standing.
Thank you, your credits are accepted.
Thank you.
Have you ever presented in front of the board before?
No.
No.
So anyway, this site is on 42 Campbell, is block 1709, lot 18. It's an R6 zone. It is just under 6,000 square feet, which is the minimum lot size. We have additions adding on to the rear of the property and renovating the house. It's almost like these guys have been in this house for about, well, I guess 8 years now. And we're gonna come through and just clean up the whole interior. And we'd like to make these small additions onto the rear, which are basically occurring where the deck is right now. And give them a little more space and add another bathroom on the second floor. It's all give us a little more like livable area and not adding, I'm gonna say, to the bulk of the building. When you see it from the street, Mallory will go into much greater detail on it than me. But I'm now on my BOA 1 street. The left side is the existing survey, the right is a proposed. And if you kind of see the way we do that single crosshatch for a 1-story building, or when we had over in the double hatch for a 2-story building, it's basically adding over the deck. We went about a foot deeper than the existing deck just to fit everything. And that's what led us to trigger the rear yard unoccupied, which I think is valid, Valerie will do better than me. But that's really what's going on, is all our work is occurring in the rear. The site is kind of well suited because on the left side, the first floor is only about 9 feet off the property line, but the second floor is pushed in a little relief from the properties. And on the left side, on the right side, the garage is way back off of what I refer to as the picture plane of the house, that front wall. So, and we're not adding over the garage, so that it actually appears as if there's a lot of room on the right side of the property and over to the neighborhood. Like I'll go in now to my BOA 2 sheet or 12, and I'm trying to move it along to like see the agenda, trying to make this happen a little bit, but we'll go. And you can see on my left side, the first floor plan, and dotted, you can actually see the existing deck, and we're at about a foot beyond that. That's what triggers this addition of rear yard unoccupied. What we actually did is we hit the rear yard setback, so we wouldn't trigger that area. The garage is still deeper than our addition. The garage is still another foot deeper. Then we came and we left a little bit of deck on the left side there, but we didn't want to add more deck going into the rear yard, so we just have a small deck. On my second floor, we reconfigured and added a second bathroom, because there's really only one bathroom on this second floor right now. So we reconfigured this existing rear bedroom, added a bedroom in the back, and end up with a really 3 bedrooms and sort of the mother-in-law's, really it's a bedroom in the front here. It's small though, but more like what we normally call a nursery. But these three rooms are really sharing that existing hall bathroom. This area is the new area in the back. That box there is the garage, right? We haven't violated into the garage space. We stayed in context to the building. If I go to my GOA 13, it's going to see that on my front elevation, there's really no change to the facade of the building. And when I was talking before about the side yard setback coming up to 18 feet and then going in as I get up to 32, you can see how our existing building is sitting at about 9 foot. The second floor is at about 13 feet, but we're already addressing that. We haven't modified it in any way at all. There's a lot of openness between the two buildings. On the right side, the garage, which looks to be forward, in the elevation, is actually pushed back about 30 feet. So there's no work going on really on the front facade of the building. If I come to my left side, there's the deck in the foreground, then the one-story building, and then beyond that is the two-story building, which is basically in that area in the rear. I'm gonna go to my BOA 14, and now, and in the backyard looking back, you can see our one-story kitchen, our second floor on top of it, and this is really a projection of about 2.5 feet that we have to come out to make that bedroom wide enough to work to fit the bathroom, which is actually right there, back in the existing building. So all my new roof, like on my right side of it, you see our new roof is very low. We've kept everything subordinate to the building, so. I'm gonna. Yeah, I guess I have one more picture. Here, I guess I have to enter this. Sorry. I'm gonna call it everyone with this.
You took these pictures too?
Yes, I took these photos, about 3 months ago, I guess before the snow. It's probably in September. The front of the building, you can see how on the, looking at it, this left side is laid back on the second floor, stays, that all stays, nothing's happening really to the front, right? It gives me actually pretty nice looking, well, the scale building in this neighborhood. On the right side, the adjacent house. I come into the back, this is where we're building over the existing deck. This is probably, the kitchen addition or originally an open porch that wasn't closed at some time, like they were going up over. And then this is just another shot from the front, because I wanted you to get an idea how deep it goes till the garage actually occurs here. This is an aerial view, which I can pass around if anyone wants to see it. You can see our proposed addition is about equal to the one on the corner. And the Campbell itself is cutting on an angle, but you see how deep the property gets immediately to the right. I mean, we're really building over that existing deck, which is in this picture. With that said, I'd like to pass it over to Mallory, and you can come back to ask me questions now or later.
I'll see if the public has any questions. Public have any questions for the architect regarding his testimony? Okay, I guess we'll move on.
Good evening, Commissioners. Mallory Parker, Prisoner Robin.
Sure, your credentials, please.
Yes, I'm a licensed planner in the state of New Jersey since 2021. My license is current and in good standing with a background in landscape architecture and a master's degree in city and regional planning. Testified for a couple dozen boards throughout the county, been before you guys previously earlier this year.
Great, your credentials are accepted, please proceed.
Great, I have a little slide deck to pass out, so I guess it would be A2 for the record.
Say two.
Yes, you can just planning presentation. Okay, so I don't wanna go over the property description too much since the architect really gave you the lay of the land, but we are at 42 Campbell Road. We are seeking relief for 3 variances tonight, first being a D4 variance for maximum FAR. And then 2 C variances, 1 for maximum building coverage and 1 for minimum unoccupied rear yard. We are located in the R6 zoning district. The purpose of the zone is to provide a range of lot sizes for single-family dwellings. The development of vacant lands in these built-up neighborhoods shall be compatible with existing development patterns. I'll touch on that a little bit more when I discuss compatibility with the master plan. But essentially, the zone and the master plan really emphasize maintaining this neighborhood scale as a priority for the residents. In terms of the variance relief, I'll start with the FAR variance. That being the largest burden of proof here before the board tonight. If you see on slide 2, which is the second little square on your page, there's a summary of the existing building for floors 1 and 2. We have really minor additions, as Tim stated, enclosing kind of what existing deck area is, and then adding a small second floor addition as well, which total between the 2 floors an additional 426 square feet of floor area. This gives us a final proposed square footage of 2,365 square feet. For reference, a compliant building on this lot would be 2,145 square feet. I do want to note for you all in this analysis for FAR, both for our property and nearby properties, the code does call for you to consider garages as part of floor area. So just for reference, our garage is 162 square feet. Just like to discern that so you get a sense of what's actually like truly habitable versus just overall structure on the property. If you go to the following page, you'll see highlighted in pink where the new bulk is proposed. That's also obviously been covered in the architecture plans. So it gives you a sense of the fact that we are really just essentially meeting the existing deck line, projecting an additional 1 foot, but we are maintaining a compliant rear yard setback. And then a smaller portion of that being added on the second floor to increase the bathroom size and be able to achieve a 4th bedroom for the family's second daughter. I do always, in evaluating these FAR variances, like to look at the existing bulk that's in the neighborhood for character. And there's a couple considerations that I'm really evaluating when I'm looking at whether I think project is appropriate. The first being just the crude calculation of FAR. So you can see on the bottom of that page that there's a little table. I took a look at all of the properties that were on the east side of Campbell Road. The properties on the west are often oriented and addressed to different streets and or just have a very different lot configuration than the east side, so I thought the most appropriate to look at the east side. You can see I've analyzed 14 properties in total. 6 of them are existing non-conforming from an FAR standpoint. They range anywhere from 0.37 to 0.41. We are proposing 0.396 FAR with this project. So we're right in line with kind of what the existing bulk is in the neighborhood. There's a couple other properties that are at the max of 0.36, so any kind of addition to those properties would require relief. And so really, I would say the first step is to look at, where are we at? What are we proposing for FAR? And is it compatible with what exists? I also like to kind of take a step closer and really analyze what the overall built square footage of the property is and what we're proposing. So I would bring to the board's attention that we are proposing in total 2,365 square feet. And if you look at that column in that table, we're very much in line, if not lower than a lot of the overall structure size that exists in the neighborhood. And I think that's an important consideration because we can do these FAR calculations, but to the layperson, you're driving by the street, you don't know where property line ends and begins from neighbor to neighbor. And you're really looking at how big is this house? Is it abnormally big compared to everything on the street, or really is it compatible with what I see on the street? And so I think it's an important consideration for the board that overall square footage and bulk is really proportionate here and very much in character with the neighborhood. Okay, so in terms of the proofs under the MLUL, case law, really establishes through Randolph Town Center and, V Randolph, that the, positive criteria for Coventry Square is the, really defining case under which a D4 can be granted. And that case establishes that unlike a D1, D4 is not evaluated based on overall site suitability for the proposed bulk. It's really just evaluated on whether the site can accommodate the impacts of the bulk that's being proposed. So it's not about this is the best site for this kind of use and or building size. It's about what are the negative impacts associated with this additional bulk and can we mitigate those? I think this is a great project to really evaluate those kind of impacts, being that we're able to propose this FAR while we do need the relief without triggering any setback variances. So I think that that's a major consideration when you're looking at impacts on adjacent properties. You have a compliant rear yard setback, compliant side yard setbacks, and we're able to also achieve this without actually expanding the building line or the built to line when you consider that existing deck. So from a neighbor standpoint, we're not gonna have a major new projection that's very much out of line with what exists today. Additionally, I would just offer that there is a building coverage variance associated with this, which I'll speak to in a second. But I think it's very relevant for the board that we don't actually need any lot coverage relief. It's another major consideration, particularly like in a community like Milburn, where you have stormwater considerations and flooding as a major concern, that I consider is FAR triggering building coverage and lot coverage and being a catalyst for kind of a waterfall of variance relief needed. And I don't believe that that's the case in this application. Moving to the building coverage, we have an addition of 243 square feet, which is about 4% additional building coverage on the property. Again, as I've stated, a lot of that is over what is existing deck, which does not get included in building coverage. So that's where that increase in percentage is coming from. A lot of the talking points on the building coverage are very similar to the considerations of the FAR, wherein we're not seeking lot coverage variance, we're not seeking setback variances in order to accommodate this bulk. And so from an overall site plan standpoint, there's no real impacts to how the site operates from today in terms of stormwater drainage and runoff management. And then in terms of the unoccupied rear yard, that's an existing non-conforming condition on this property. We are making that a little bit more severe by about, I think it's 0.9% or 1%. So it's a marginal increase in that non-conformity. And again, a lot of this is the same talking points, so sorry to echo, but you know, we do maintain fully compliant setbacks on all sides despite that unoccupied rear yard. And again, I think being an existing non-conformity, it's really a function of the placement of the existing structure and the fact that the best place for an addition on this property is in this rear of the building rather than a side or changing the front end of the manner. It would have a much more drastic impact on the overall neighborhood character and the experience of the property from the public right of way. In terms of the master plan, I did review the recommendations that are tied to the R6 zone. The master plan identifies protection of neighborhood character as a key community priority that was voiced during outreach. Again, our addition isn't even visible from the right of way, so there will be, if any, I would say not really any, impacts overall to neighborhood character. Goal 1 of the master plan encourages appropriate land uses to promote township character. Again, I think we're just reinforcing that by being able to expand the structure without visible alterations from the right of way. And the fact that we are able to maintain those compliant setbacks means that there's no impacts to light, air, and open space for our immediately adjacent neighbors. The zoning recommendations for R6 specifically call for the township to ensure that new construction and or additions are not excessively bulky in relation to neighborhood context. I think we've shown that through the FAR analysis that looks at overall built square footage and what we're proposing be very in line with the neighborhood. Finally, I do think we are advancing several purposes of the MLUL with the project. Specifically purpose A, to encourage municipal action and appropriate use for development of all lands in a manner that promotes general welfare and safety. Purpose C, just to provide adequate light, air, and open space. Again, that harkens back to the fact that we are maintaining compliant setbacks on all sides, which is consistent with the zone plan. And purpose E, just to promote the establishment of population densities and concentrations that will contribute to well-beings of persons and neighborhoods. So we are a single-family home. We need to grow that single-family home so this family can stay here. But we're maintaining that use, that density, and the overall bulk parameters of the zone. So I do think we're able to meet the proofs of both the D4 and a C2, the building coverage and the minimum unoccupied rear yard. I don't think that there's any substantial detriment in the granting of the variances, and I do think the proposed bulk is a better overall design alternative than other potential expansions of the structure, which would have significant impacts on the existing area. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah. It looks like you noticed it said it was a violation of 4 different variances.
That was my mistake. I
Oh.
saw that because I think it just got carried over from
Gotcha.
another application.
I thought I was gonna say, you just talked about the 3 and the 3 that were in your application, but I was noticing, okay, great. Good job.
I have a question, and I'm gonna show a little ignorance here. Is this, Tim, is this considered an attached garage or a detached garage? Because there's no access to the building,
But it's attached.
detached, okay. Maybe this question then is for our attorney. I thought rear yard unoccupied was from the furthest reach of the building, in which case the garage would be part of it. Right, so since you're not going past the garage, I don't see a change in the rear yard unoccupied.
I would, for rear setback, but for rear yard unoccupied, that's like saying you can't build anything accessory in that area. It's not rear yard.
No, but it's not attached. So if it's attached, it's part of the building.
Right,
No,
but
it
I would
is
use the
attached.
entire, the
So
entirety of
the
that.
calculation here is from, we ignore the garage for the calculation of for where we measure the rear yard setback.
So I would just offer that the zoning table for the zone calculates the unoccupied rear yard based on lot area. So it's not just a linear dimension, it's a lot area dimension. So because our addition is projecting additional 1 foot into the rear yard from what exists today, that would shrink that total 25% area that's proposed.
Right, but
It's not a straight line.
Right.
You
can see Yeah, it's jagged.
red. That's the rear, and that right there, you're looking at it. You're looking up top. See how it's not square.
So I would draw a line across from where they're proposing it, and then that surface is around the garage. It's not gonna do a total rear yard.
okay, so
If it did go straight, you're right, you wouldn't have increased the
Maybe it
violation.
needs to do that.
It's just that where that deck line is changing slightly, so we have a slight reduction in what is gonna be proposed. Like I said, about 1%. And I would offer, which you can see in the survey that was submitted, there aren't any accessory structures currently in the rear yard, so it's not.
What's your current rear unoccupied right now?
It is, yeah, a little over 1,300 square feet or 22.7.
22.7, right, so you're not compliant now.
Yes.
So can I ask, I understand your rear yard setback will be compliant.
Correct.
How far are you though from the house on the other side?
The house in the rear.
In the rear.
So we actually have, if you look at the tax map that's on page 2, you'll see we actually have a rear to side relationship on that. So we're not actually aligning with the primary structure. They do have an accessory garage in their backyard. I would have to probably pull up a satellite image to verify that metric for you. But I would say with our 20 feet, assuming they have a compliant accessory structure there, there's probably an additional 10 feet. So from us to their garage would be about 30 feet.
So their
But that's a
house,
detached garage on that property.
looks like more than that, because the garage is on the farthest side.
It is,
of the
okay.
property. So
Oh,
it's
yeah, it's
probably-
on the fourth side.
Yeah, it's not close to the
Yeah,
property.
okay.
can I see that?
Because their driveway goes up the left side of the
Right.
house.
That's what I think the kid.
Okay. You can take it
You
back.
got it?
I mean,
I don't wanna bring it
usually the
home.
same amount of backyard in their yard.
Right, if they were
As there is
oriented
in-
back to
in-
back, right?
Like,
Any other questions? Any questions from the public regarding the testimony you just heard? Anything further?
That's it. Thank you for your time.
Okay, any comments from the public regarding this application? And I'll close the public portion. What are your thoughts, board member?
I think the fact that the effect doesn't change much from the street, is, you know, as testimony alluded to, keeps the view from the street character of the, you know, somebody passing by or walking by consistent. I think it's, you know, a nice way to adjust the home to be more useful. I think a one-bedroom house, I understand, is one bathroom house is challenging. So I can understand why the applicant would look to make these modifications, and I think I understand they do impact, but the lot size being small does seem to be a hardship, so I think it's compelling.
So you do have a hardship in regards to the lot, albeit a small one. You know, I appreciate this application because one that I often say, you know, you have your two choices. You can go for what you want or for what you need. And here you went for what you need. And I think that's admirable because you know, these rooms are modest in size. So even if I said, hey, let's chop that 0.5% off on that, it's almost impossible to do. Because these bedrooms are like not even bedrooms anymore. So they're gonna be like large walk-in closets. So you know, it would be a hard request even to say, can you trim here or trim there? So I would be in favor of this application as it's proposed.
Yeah, I agree. I have a lot more to add, except I do think the FAR analysis is actually quite helpful. And showed some wisdom in letting you speak. So I thought that was a very good analysis. And you know, I think if we're concerned about massing with an FAR or an overage on FAR, I don't really see that either. And I think as the chairman noted, I think this is you know, a modest ask. And I think it fits within the context of the neighborhood nicely.
Since this is a D variance and we are short on people, I would ask everyone to just make a comment, whether you're in favor or not.
I would support this, and I again say Mallory, once again, when I saw you sitting down, you're gonna have a good analysis on some of
I
these.
agree.
Yeah, I think, you know, don't have a lot to add to that, but just based on the analysis that we have here and, you know, great job, you know, once again with the FAR analysis, you know, just around the surrounding property and, yeah, considering with the, you know, lot area size, hardship there and tastefully done, you know, to meet the need. I think I'm in favor of that.
It's a thoughtful design, you know,
I'm assuming you vote for the vote. I have a motion in this case.
I move to approve the application and accept all variances.
A second?
I'll second it.
David Bradford,
Yes,
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Beth Soul.
Yes.
Julia Roberts.
Yes.
Steve Cronin.
yes.
Rick Wiggins.
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Next up, we have calendar 406826 690 Ridgewood Road. What? Yes. Mr. Singer, you're the loan professional this evening? Yeah, okay, so I did not afford to talk to this, but I'll give you, well, as you know, we are short members this evening. And clearly you need 5 out of 6 tonight, as opposed to 5 out of 7. So, I just want you to know that for your V variance.
We haven't.
No, okay, good, then you don't have to worry about it, so you're only looking for 4 out of 6. On the application of this case. Yeah. In that case, who's gonna be speaking tonight? You're gonna swear you both in, so.
Why don't you both raise your right hand, you swear from testimony you give tonight, swearing the truth, whole truth, and but the truth?
Yeah.
Just state your name for the record. Your name,
Rajesh Maheshwari.
RAJSH.
I'll give you this.
I've got it, yeah.
Thomas Singer. Architect. Licensed since 1988. Licensed planner in New Jersey since 2011. Graduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania.
And you presented for this board before.
And I presented before.
All right, your credentials are accepted, so why don't you get going?
Okay.
Yeah, all right. Good evening. This variance application is about preparing a home so that we can live independently for 100 years in this town. My name is Rajesh Maheshwari. I am a 72-year-old retired active electrical engineer. And my wife is a retired microbiologist. We lived here for 38 years and would like to live here. And we call this town our home. Our two children went through the kindergarten, through the high school in this town. We are blessed with 6 grandchildren. And this has been more than a place to live. It has been the foundation of our family, our friendships, our community. My wife suffers from an autoimmune condition which makes her sitting with the leg up. And she cannot stand or walk for extended period of time. It's difficult. She has tachycardia and temporal arthritis. Both of us have hypertension and I suffer from severe spinal stenosis. And that's the reason for this presentation this evening. To prepare our home for the years ahead, we need to make some practical modifications so it can accommodate limited mobility and eventually wheelchair access, which is not there. We need to expand our current 84 square foot kitchen so we can put a dishwasher inside. And we need to put an elevator so we can transport ourselves through the floors as time advances. We respectfully request your approval of this variance and which Tom will explain in detail. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I also have some paper.
What are you, giving out?
Say, schedule of the houses on the block. Building coverage. Sites.
Okay, so we'll start this one.
So. We're looking to add an elevator. And make some arrangements around. A few deficiencies. So the existing house follows that line, 70 square feet of space that's left, that's open. And this is a small, this thing, 3-season. Dining room beyond that, but all the construction work is going on beyond that. So the addition is 70 square feet. Extends up to the second floor. And over the 3-season. The easiest way to look at it, I think, is, that's the existing house. That sort of a complicated roof line. We're taking that and second floor, some of it, building this corner. Yeah, and this side is above the existing house here. And the elevator. It's located there so that it's close to the stair, so that if you load it, you can run up the stair. Stairs. So assuming you got a wheelchair or something that won't fit the wheelchair carrier, you got a quick path to get upstairs now. Right now, this is the kitchen. I'm gonna go to a sheet that's. It's a little larger. So this has the area that's being built left out. Yeah,
I don't have.
you don't have.
That was colorized, so.
Oh.
Let them mark the whole thing. You have to color the
It's
whole thing.
colorized, so we're gonna.
Yeah. Then I part of it.
You wanna mark them individually or mark? the whole
You can
package?
mark the whole package.
Me too.
So there are, well, this is the elevator, this is the upstairs. Upstairs, there is a small shaped room that's got a bathroom. Could be used as, well, it's initially gonna be used as an office, and it could be used for an attendant. There are 3 variances that we're looking for. One is for building coverage. One is for side yard setback. And one is for height to side yards. The setbacks are all on this wall. This side of the site. The distance from the property line to the building is 7.28 feet. Which means that there's a 70.72 feet beyond the building exceeds the setback by 0.72.
Just for the record, you're not exacerbating that condition, correct?
We are not exacerbating.
Either one, correct?
Um,
In terms of side yard setback,
well, the extent in terms of the length of the building along the side is getting,
correct, that one's getting a little.
that's the only,
It's not getting close.
it's not getting. And there's a little tiny piece up here because it's 19.37 feet to the ridge, so the kick. The height of side yard is, it's just before that, a little there, right over here. Height to side yard. So let's see if that's on the south. So Rosedale Avenue intersects Ridgewood Road at a 45-degree angle, resulting in irregular shaped corner lot. The house is in the R6 district, the lots along the west side of Rosedale Avenue. Mostly 37.5 by 100. In the R6 district, 60 by 90 are required. And 6,000 square feet is the minimum lot size. This one is 5459. So it's slightly below the standard for the district. In addition to the diagonal, because it's a corner lot, it's gotta meet the side setback on two sides, which forces the building back a little bit further than it normally would. The current home with the shed down here. That was a prior approval. Yeah, I forgot what year. But it's in the package.
2009.
Yeah, November 2009. Anyway, the current building coverage is 1341. And the allowable is 1255 square feet. So the current is 24.56, which is above the 23, and we're adding 70 feet, which brings us up to 1411, 25.85%. 17 homes comprise the subject side of Rosedale Avenue. Only one of them meets 23% building coverage. The subject property has the third smallest coverage ratio in both configurations, both 24% and 55%. The 14 other houses are non-conforming and larger than this one. And these vary from 26 to 37%. The minimum side yard, 18 feet, is 72 feet variance, and above 18 feet, there's an additional 0.41. And so is 1.13 feet at the roof. In reviewing the 15 properties on the same side of Rosedale Avenue, there are 11 of the 15 that can't meet the side yard requirement based on the width of the house and the width of the lot. So there would probably be more because some of them, four that were big enough, could have been closer to the lot line. Wow. Skip the additional. We are requesting relief of these conditions based on C1 and or C2 variances. C1 allows relief in cases of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, shape of a specific piece of property, and the structures lawfully existing thereupon. Strict application of the ordinance would present the hardship. All the relief relates to the land and the structures leaving on. The lot is exceptionally irregular, shallow, and requires front yard setback on two sides, which create practical difficulties adding to the already undersized home. The house exists, and the proposed setback is merely an extension of the structure. We're not changing what the side setback is or what that is the side setback. The exceptions being requested do not add new non-conformities, but minimally increase the degree of existing. The setback relief being requested, the extension of the ground floor. The setback is de minimis in size, making them newer form. Would create an inside sized impact on the structure, cost and stability of the house. Adding projecting roofs to manage the setbacks, we require side, roofs. Which would make the setback appear narrower. In Harlow versus Harding versus the zoning board of Harding. State ruled that hardship relief could be granted for a vertical extension of existing non-conforming building based on additional plus. 11 of the 15 houses with parallel side yards, the street cannot meet the setback requirements without partial demolition or complete demolition of the buildings lawfully existing. 17 of the 17 lots on the block exceed the building coverage limit. Subject lot is the third lowest building coverage on the street. And that applies to the existing condition and the new condition. They're both third. The benefits of the deviation would substantially outweigh the detriments of the particular application. This is the balancing test C2. This is all about situations uniquely affecting this specific piece of property, including the structures lawfully existing now. Home improvement adds value, quality to the site, which adds to the value and quality of the area. Improvements, siding and escape potentially sidewalks. And the purpose is, that's purpose one, that satisfies purpose one, providing a visual, pleasant physical environment. The project provides a better living environment that makes it possible for the family that lives there to age in place. Promote health and safety. Purpose A. The renovation could keep the house from becoming a tear down. Promotes recovery, recycling of the waste. Alteration maintain the historic context of the neighborhood. Some tear down. It's generally keeping the same basic character of the house. Promotes respect for the history, which is J, purpose J. In addition to the modest 70 square foot coverage, it's not obtrusive or overwhelming, which addresses purpose C, like air. The addition does not create additional population density. It provides critical support for the family that already lives there, which is the purpose C density. 70 additional square feet is behind the house from Ridgewood Road and over 82 feet from Ridgedale Avenue, limiting visibility from the street. No variance or other relief can be granted without substantial substantially detriment. No variance or other relief may be granted. Substantial detriment to the public good will not substantially impair the intended purpose of the zoning ordinance. Relief requested was closer to the intent of the zoning ordinance than the vast majority of other properties on the street. The size and shape of the property is unique, resulting in internal and it's the result of internal and external forces affecting the area. Lots both undersized and regular, being formed from shift of railroad right of way, 40 years before the Milburn zoning ordinance was adopted. The proposed maximum building coverage ratio, subject property is more conforming than 17 lots on the block. Side yard relief of 8.5 inches based on the 77.28 foot setback, which is less than the average on the block, which is 7.6. While a single couple living in a private house is not specifically covered by the inherent beneficial use, it is not covered under purpose L because it's not community housing. can be inferred to be in the public good based on state of New Jersey's effort to make it easier for seniors to age in place. Through tax programs like the Senior Free State of New Jersey and the anchor programs. The township master plan reexamination, objective 1.3 encourages action to allow senior citizens to remain down. It's reasonable to treat this as not detrimental to the public good. For these reasons, no previously enumerated, humbly request approval of this.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the architecture or planning testimony that was given?
So did you state that the width or size of the elevator does not accommodate a wheelchair? The way you phrased it, like
depends on the
somebody could
wheelchair.
run up, I didn't know what you were
It
saying.
depends on in most cases, somebody ends up running up the stairs because there's groceries going with it or. But it is intended to be a 3%
Elevator, okay, and then our other ADA accommodations were made so that. One.
There it is.
Thank you. Other accommodations like either to front steps or egress between looks like there are steps between the garage and the front floor. I don't know if I'm interpreting the ground floor plan correctly, like, are you making the whole house compliant while you're there?
At the moment, we don't need to do that.
Rephrase it, you're making it accessible, not compliant.
Accessible, thank you.
They're making it.
It will be accessible to people who use it until it's, in which case the ramps go. However, the elevator takes the bulk of that.
Obviously, it takes the biggest portion of the height to go up. But the front steps, the access from the garage, those aren't changing right now.
They're not really changing right now. There's an opportunity in the garage for lift, which would be the easiest way to avoid.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public regarding the testimony you've heard this evening? Any comments from the public regarding this application? And I'll close the public portion. Board members, your thoughts? So I'll go first. I think this is another thoughtful application. At the end of the day, you're trying just to accommodate the needs here of the applicants. And you're not exacerbating conditions. Building coverage, I usually can see as a C1 and borderline C2. I think that the lot can accommodate the mass. From C1 perspective, you're 500 square feet plus below the zone minimum. So with that 500 square feet, probably the bulk of this goes away.
We result in 0.5%.
0.5%, yeah, so you're just about gone. So with that, I would be supportive of the application. I agree.
No.
But since you mentioned the ADA, and seems like there's a real hardship here that can be addressed in a way. The state encourages people to age in place if they can, so you're helping.
Yes.
I have a motion. So, a second?
Second.
David Bradford,
Yes.
Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Beth Zoll,
Yes.
Melina Roberts.
Yes.
Steve Cohen.
Yes.
Fred Singer.
Yes, good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Or the next 38 years.
The next 30.
Is that what he said? We put it down to 30. But it should say.
We're done here.
Next application is gonna be calendar 405125. 521 Mill Avenue. We don't fight. You're more than welcome to come down.
Thank you.
And I.
Are you this evening?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, board professionals, Lawrence Sachs, on behalf of the applicant, 521 M8 Properties LLC. This property is located at 521 Milburn Avenue, block 1707, lot 1. So.
Let me stop you there real quick. As you know, we are short members tonight. So if we do get to a vote, and you don't like what you hear, or whatever, I will give you the opportunity to potentially come back. We will not hear any new testimony on the here. Fine with that. And obviously we have the giant res judicata.
That's correct. That's why we're here this evening.
So I would ask you to proceed, but knowing that George is blaze on with this application, there are some large gorillas to get over.
Yeah, and that's, this is not your normal run-of-the-mill, hearing. And just to give some insight into this, back in 2018, this board did deny an application.
I think I was the only one on this case that sat on that case. It was one of the first. Oh, wait, no, it's.
Oh.
Yeah, yes, thanks. Anyway, back in 2018, there was a prior application of this property, which was denied by the board. And in the resolution, there were several reasons expressed for that denial. We're here this evening to discuss, and I have 3 witnesses here this evening. I have our project architect, Mr. Don Fiore, who will talk about some of the changes that were made with respect to the application. I have our professional planner, Nancy Smith, who will also talk about the issue of how this pertains to res judicata. I'm not really going to get into the variances tonight because that's a subject for a later date, but certainly we're prepared to discuss that as well.
I think the variances are somewhat the overshadowing issue.
Well,
You're exacerbating your FAR.
I'm going to talk about the FAR as well, Mr. Chairman, because I do have testimony from the planner, and I also would like to talk about in my summation about conclusions that were made back in 2018. So with that said, we propose to indicate to this board that there have been sufficient changes which would overcome the doctrine of res judicata. And I'm sure your attorney can instruct you on this, but res judicata would bar a subsequent application on the same property from proceeding forward unless you can show sufficient changes, and that's elucidated in the case of Pressman versus Gash, which is a Supreme Court case from 1993. I'll talk about that in my summation as well, Mr. Chairman. But I do have 3 witnesses.
Before we get to the witnesses,
Sure.
Can you give us some kind of proper as to why res judicata is not applied in this case?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about it, but I think the testimony will support it. But back in 2018, we had an application that had no parking on site. We now have parking on site. Over the course of the last several years, we were able to negotiate with the township of Milburn to obtain an easement to actually park in we have spaces on our property, but they would overhang into the township right of way. That's been resolved. We have an easement to utilize that township right of way that's recorded with the Essex County Clerk.
Still substantial deviation.
No, I don't think it's a substantial deviation. I don't want to argue with you, Mr. Chairman, but it's not a deviation. I think what I have to show in order to overcome res judicata is that there have been sufficient changes with the second application. I had no parking back.
Threading the needle there. Okay.
Well, all right, well, I'll reserve comment.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you need to hear from my witnesses, but certainly that in and of itself is a sufficient change with respect to the application. We had no parking. Now we have 5 parking spaces, which by the way comply with the RSIS in terms of the residential use.
There's also been a suggestion from your police department. They don't have any objection to the application. They understand that we do ultimately need a parking variance. They've suggested that we obtain additional parking by way of permit from the municipal garage across the street. We're prepared to do that. There were comments from your fire district. We're certainly willing to comply with that. And the only comments, interestingly, from your engineer were the elimination of a dry well. They feel that we don't need a dry well on this property. So one change obviously is the parking. Second change is the aesthetics of this property.
Yeah, I wouldn't put too much stock in that, okay? That was one board member back then that made a big deal about
Okay.
the Tudor look, okay? That was certainly not, I would say, a general opinion, okay? And this board doesn't have an opinion on aesthetics,
I understand.
okay? You can still build whatever you wanna build, even if we don't like it.
Well, we did change the aesthetics though, so we will talk about that as well. And by the way, I'm not gonna belabor these points with the board
Right.
because our presentation is rather brief. But I would like to at least get on the record, the testimony of the professionals. I would like an opportunity to sum up. And
What about the FAR?
we're gonna talk about, my planner's gonna talk about the FAR. All right, and in terms of the FAR.
In terms of dress judicata is what I wanna hear. And that's what
Okay.
I'm not interested in him telling me about the FAR. I'm interested in you telling me
Yeah.
how the FAR pertains to res judicata and what you're doing about that.
Well, I'm not sure it necessarily pertains to res judicata, all right, because again, my planner is going to discuss the issue of the fact of how an FAR applies when you've got a mixed use here. Obviously, I've got a quantifiable lot of a certain size. I already have an existing commercial use on that property, albeit it's vacant at this particular time. I'm adding a residential use. The argument could be made that we actually satisfy the FAR, which is 0.75 in the zone, which is what the residential use triggers. Now, I don't have any available contiguous property to abate any FAR variance, but I prefer to have my planner address that as well.
Wasn't that the argument the last time?
It was one of the arguments. One of the arguments was,
rejected.
And now you're bumping up the FAR.
the FAR is, the initial plans submitted were 1.36.
They dropped
We
to
dropped it to
1.1.
1.12, and now we're up to 1.32. But again, I will address that with my planner and with my architect. So, at least I'd like the opportunity.
Are they going to give us planning testimony as to why they should be granted, or are they gonna tell us what makes this substantially different?
I don't have to give you planning testimony to support any variances. At this point, all I've got to demonstrate to you is that I've made sufficient changes to the application under Bressman v. Gash. Now, if you rule that res judicata does not apply and I proceed forward and I come back, and I'm not suggesting you would handle that this evening, but we'll come back. If you determine res judicata does not apply and I can proceed forward, you're certainly free at that point, when you hear my variance testimony on the D4, to either accept or reject that testimony. You know, that's obviously the risk that we run at a later date. But I think for purposes of this evening, the only thing I need to demonstrate to you is that this application is sufficiently different under Bressman versus Gash that it takes it out of the
I'm not
context.
sure
of
you've done
res
that.
judicata.
See, before we hear testimony.
I don't provide testimony. I don't have.
I get what you're saying. I
Yeah.
get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, even though you have.
Mhm.
You're still presenting a case here that the conditions are exacerbated over the previous application. And the largest one too. You're talking about your D variance.
And the one that they specifically say is why we turned this down. It's too high of an FAR.
Well, you turned it down for too high of an FAR, and again, I believe that that was not a proper decision at that point. Obviously, the appeal period is expired, but I think I'm at least entitled to the opportunity this evening to address those issues in front of this board, to establish a record, and we see where it goes. But again, Bressman versus Gash, by the way, doesn't talk about intensification. It only talks that you have to make sufficient changes.
Not to the worst.
Doesn't say that. I wish it did say that.
Well, it doesn't.
Mr. Chairman.
All right,
But again.
let's proceed.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
just know that there will be a vote on, res judicata, okay? Because sit here and go through all this, just start with smoke and mirrors is not.
No, and again, I'm an attorney, I'm not a planner, I'm not an engineer, I'm not an architect, so I think I need to be afforded the opportunity to present that testimony on the record. You'll weigh your decision based on that, and And in terms of taking a vote, I know that, and I see that your procedure has been to somewhat poll the board. I'd probably request the same courtesy.
Of course.
And of course, if we decide not to take a vote tonight, we won't, or we might.
Yeah, because we'll hear this testimony and then we'll make a decision.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. All right, first witness I'd like to call is Mr. Don Fiore.
Oh, yeah, why don't you just explain real quick, so that everyone here understands res judicata and understand it.
Res judicata deals with basically the same application coming before you twice. It's the same party coming. That's one of the elements. If it's substantially similar to the first one, it's an element. Must be substantial change to either the application itself or the surrounding area, not just the application. Must be an adjudication on the merits if we had. And this application, it must involve the same cause of action, which we're here for 2 residential apartments, which is what the previous one was. So based on that, those 5 criteria, the board can make a decision. Now, as far as intensification, intensifying uses, Freddie versus Bloomfield dealt with that. And they said that causes a res judicata issue. It's the same application and the same deviations are intensified. So based on that, whether we have the same applicant, same application, our big problem or big issue here to discuss with council and the applicant is this substantially different application for this actual property? Or is there something in the surrounding area that changes everything as it relates to this property? We need to determine that. And we're going to hear testimony as to why this is or is not substantially different from the previous application.
And then if we determine it is substantially different, we would then be able to.
After they have a presentation, you can deliberate and have a vote. Or if it's clear it's substantially different, we can just proceed forward.
Thank you.
Your credentials, please.
Okay.
Wait, yes, each.
I just wanted to-
Do you swear from testimony you're about to give the truth, whole truth, but the truth? Your name and
Donald Fiore, FI-O-R-E. I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, license is in good standing. I testified before, planning board of adjustment, historic boards, in Melbourne and within the general area on a regular basis. Been practicing in Melbourne since 1998. Currently, I'm the managing member of Banks and Fiore Architects, local firm. In practicing here as a sole practitioner for the most part.
I realize it's a good standing.
Yes, it is.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My intent, just so make sure, I was doing a general overview of the project, just make sure we have an introduction. And the intent was to try and isolate some of the differences between this project currently proposed and the prior application based on the items listed in the denial. So I'm literally going through the resolution and going, okay, here's the item that was mentioned, discussed. Here's how it is. So. For the application, our A0.2 on the right hand side, we have the site plan which we are proposing. Basically shade gray area, you're seeing the existing building. Simple gray up the right hand side, is an alleyway that's essentially the increase in the building coverage under the proposed project. There's a back alley, just paved trash gathering area that's set back there. That is proposed to be incorporated into a hallway to get from the building to the rear as well as to the forward avenue. Behind the building, there is a existing open area. We are proposing in that area a forest paver treatment of that courtyard. That's the proposed and existing loading area. We would also be doing landscape screening to the rear and dumpster enclosure along the rear property line. One of the big differences to this project, as Mr. Sachs had mentioned, in terms of parking, the parking spaces on the left-hand side in the existing building and in the prior application basically, there are areas where people park, but none of it has been actually legally established parking. That building has been there for about 80 years. This is now the first opportunity to make those legal parking stalls. In the negotiations with the town, an easement was established with the service wire hatch portion, which extends that side property line roughly 14 feet towards the Runway Drive to achieve conforming parking stalls. And that agreement was basically set up conditioned on site plan approval or not. So the project was presented and discussed as part of that process. So it is something that we were able to establish with the town.
And just so the record is clear, the exhibit you were talking about, Mr. Fiore, that was part of the submission?
Yes, everything you're seeing here is the submission packet that you have received. For our A 1.1, basically this is the floor plan. I think that would be most important for what we're discussing at the moment. First floor plan is on the left-hand side, second floor plan on the right-hand side. First floor plan, the intent would basically be to establish a retail entrance on that corner. It's a great corner for this property. It's where at that corner, that's actually where it was hit. That it's just a very strong location for that particular element, coming up Milburn Ave or Upper Milburn or Upper Milburn Avenue, or Upper Milburn as a district. On the right-hand side of the property, there would be our intent is to establish a through hall, basically giving access for residential, for residents, off of Milburn Ave and giving them direct access to the rear. So basically it's clean, secured access both off the street and to the rear of the property off the courtyard. On the interior, we relocated the existing stair down to the basement over to coordinate with that stair so we could consolidate that area and try and establish something cleaner for the retail space, which has been vacant. It has been put up for lease, has not gone anywhere at the moment. On the second floor, this is basically set up central hallway, providing access to the apartments. And essentially the building is split front and back. You have two bedroom apartments, each approximately 1,308 square feet and 1,293 square feet. So that's in terms of the.
So rather than a site plan review here, I want to hear as it pertains to variances. Okay, that's what we're doing here. We're not just doing a site plan blow through. I want to see exactly where you mentioned your 5 parking spots. How does that pertain to your parking variance?
Okay, I was under the impression I was looking at the deviations of the gross street comma.
Right, and that's one of them.
Yes.
So what I don't want to do tonight is a site plan.
No, and I agree, we're not doing a site plan. All I'm doing is just having him describe what's being proposed. I mean, the answer to your question is, initially, we had 0 parking spaces, now we have 5, and I think we require a total of 17. So the additional spaces, we've already agreed that we will provide them through permit with your municipal garage at the recommendation of the police department. That's one of the memos that was included. In
No, I'm well aware of that, but
Yeah.
permits are access to parking, it's not actual
I
parking.
understand that.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, the site has not changed in size. The building hasn't changed in size. So
Correct.
We understand that.
So what we want, yeah, exactly, it's actually no bigger. What I'd like to hear is more testimony, more meat on the bone as it pertains to this res judicata issue we're facing, rather than just tore the building.
Okay. I was treating it as the general overview, just to make sure the board was comfortable with the application we were talking about. I can go back to the site plan and do the specific issues, and with that, I think I would probably start with the park. So, as I said, on the site plan, there has been no legal parking for this property for the years since it's been in existence use. There have been no resolutions that, no deviations. At this point, we.
It wasn't used though as parking, like, was it sort of under the radar kind of?
There was always a rumor in that neighborhood of semi, that it was public parking, but somebody figured out how to make it private. I mean, my office has been right there, so.
This is the rope across.
Well, that's right now, but when Gandy Russ was there, it was actually store parking.
Yeah, it was always used as that for the building. Like I said, it was just rumor wise, there was this public, it was like on-street parking that only they could use. Never really understood it until I got into this application, or, saw this site, so. So with that, with the, establishment of the easement, we now have 5 legally conforming spaces. In the application, we would require 17. The intent of the 5 spaces would be set up, 1 for each of the 2 apartments and 1 permit for each of the 2 apartments. The residential in the neighborhood typically uses lot 14, similar to the apartment building across the street.
We don't need a justification why parking variance was granted. You have 5 legal spots now, they weren't legal. We stick with what's different, not just the justification for the variances, where you're gonna get other parking from. How is this different from the previous application?
Okay,
You told us about the parking spots, that's fine.
yeah, and I think that in and of itself is probably a sufficient cause for this board to determine that there's no res judicata issue. You had an application, I guess I'm doing part of my summation now, but certainly you had a situation where no parking was being provided on the site. No parking was being provided that would satisfy the residential site improvement standards. Let me ask you a question, Mr. Fiore. If those 5 parking spaces were dedicated just to the residential use alone, would that satisfy the residential site improvement standards?
Yes.
It would,
Yes.
okay, all right. The other change, deal, and again, why don't we talk a little bit about the aesthetics? I understand that the chairman has indicated that he may not be concerned about the aesthetics, but let's talk about.
We have no purview over aesthetics.
I understand that, but that was one of the conditions that was in
It
your
wasn't a condition,
resolution.
it was a comment that was made.
Okay.
There was no conditions of approval at all.
I'm sorry, a condition of the denial, not a condition, it was one of the reasons for the denial, and in fact, there was some extensive language regarding the aesthetics. Mr. Fiore, if you don't mind, could you talk about the change in the aesthetics on this project as well?
Make sure we cover the variances, there is no variance for aesthetics.
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, I don't have to talk about any of the variances this evening. I'm not here for variance. That's something that will be discussed if in fact you determine that res judicata does not apply. Then at a subsequent hearing, when I'm seeking preliminary and final site plan approval, D4 floor area ratio approval, and bulk variance approval, I will address the variances. I don't have to address the variances this evening.
You also haven't addressed anything to do with the res judicata except for parking so far, we still.
Well,
have
I've addressed, all right, again, I've addressed the parking. I'm going to now address the issue of aesthetics, because in the resolution of denial, let me just read it for the record.
I'm very well aware of the record of those.
Well, let me read it in because I think I have to establish it for purposes of my record.
Because aesthetics aren't presented to the board tonight, so they have no way to even review them.
Well, I understand that. No, but
We don't comment on this.
well, we are presenting a change in the aesthetics, because there was a great deal of commentary devoted to this particular application with respect to the aesthetics. For instance, in paragraph 15 of the resolution from August 6th of 2018, it states, quote, "The revised plans are designed to reduce the massing of the building with the proposed addition. The proposed Tudor style architecture is different from the architecture of the neighboring commercial buildings along Milburn Avenue, which are more modern in style with flat roofs concealed by parapets facing Milburn Avenue. Building with the proposed addition would be higher than the two-story building at the opposite end of the block at the corner of Milburn Avenue and Campbell Road. And that's from the resolution itself. As well in the findings of fact that were contained in that resolution. I'll go to paragraph 22. And this is the findings of fact sort of in the middle of the paragraph. The proposed improvements include a new exterior facade of the entire building using the Tudor style. The board notes that the architecture of the other commercial buildings on this block of Milburn Avenue is more modernist in style. As a result of the proposed Tudor design, the structure with the proposed addition will be too massive in appearance and out of keeping with the scale and character of the other commercial properties on this section of Milburn Avenue. To illustrate, even though the structure with the proposed addition would be a two-story structure, it will give the appearance of a three-story structure, which includes fake attic windows to foster the proposed exterior Tudor facade. The neighboring commercial properties are more modern single-story structures with flat roofs and rooftop mechanicals concealed by front facade parapets. So obviously, at the last hearing in 2018, there was a good deal of commentary and findings of fact, a specific finding of fact made by this board. So based on that, Mr. Fiore, can you describe the changes that have been made to the exterior facade with respect to this application?
First, in terms of the scale of the building, the prior application was at a ridge line of 32 feet allowed by ordinance, but maxed out. For this application, that 32 feet would be the top of what I'm calling clock tower on that corner. So the building itself, though we are increasing the FAR, the massing of the building itself is 5 feet lower than what was previously proposed. In the 5 feet, all right, so we dropped the building 5 feet to this highest mansard, then drop it down another 18 inches to this lower mansard. Those pieces of mansard are basically there for equipment screening to do any of the rooftop equipment. So in terms of the height and the massing and scale of the building, it's starting 5 feet lower than what was previously submitted. In terms of the aesthetic, this is intended to be more of a transitional style than the Tudor that was previously submitted. I did read in the resolution, as Mr. Sachs has been pointing out, that it seemed to be a point of contention and concern in that resolution. So that was one of the reasons we were trying to address that specifically. So in terms of the scale, mass of the building, we did reduce the size of this and potentially and massing to something I thought was definitely more in keeping with the existing commercial that's on the street and as a transition into the residential neighborhood. In terms of the existing commercial storefronts that are on the block, let's say 1 block high away, they tend to average about 22 to 23 feet high for existing 1-story storefronts. Now, some of it may be parapet, some of it may be the height of the building. One of the buildings on the next block, but basically continuous in the streetscape, is I would call it a 1.5 story in terms of the front facade. However, it's a 2-story building once you get back to the residential neighborhood, same residential district behind the property. So it's, in terms of scale, this is probably bigger than what would be that average. But it's set up as a true 2-story building. We're not trying to create the false narrative of the 3-story or the habitable attic type of block. So that was something that was specifically referenced in the resolution.
I have our planner is obviously going to cover some of the variants. There are changes in variant. Now I will have my planner cover that. But in terms of anything else, any other things to add, Mr. Fiore? I know you've commented on the change in the style, change in the massing, the diminishment of massing. And obviously the fact that we now have 5 additional parking spaces, which would satisfy the RSIS. And the recommendation from the police department to provide or to obtain additional parking permits. Anything else you need to add in terms of changes?
In addition, lot coverage, in the application, we are reducing the lot coverage in this by, introducing the forest pavers, treatment in the courtyard, and then trying to incorporate that into the, storm retention system in that area. So in terms of the change from the prior, that is, a specific change. We also have an increase in the landscape screening the buffer, so.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any further questions of Mr. Fiore. Certainly he's available for any questions.
There are board any questions for Mr. Fiore?
So the resolution says the board finds and concludes this site will not accommodate the problems associated with the proposed floor area larger than permitted by the ordinance. Proposed floor area ratio variance, 50% deviation from the allowable floor area ratio. Is that still the case or is that changing?
You have an increase in the FAR.
By 50%?
More.
More, okay. And so I understand your testimony about the massing being improved. In your view, does that satisfy, or is that consistent with the finding that the proposed floor area ratio larger than permitted by the township board would not be appropriate in this case?
The FAR is done as a square foot number in terms of calculation. In my experience, and actually, I think in some prior testimony on other projects, it tends to be consistent in terms of intensity for a commercial use, retail space, that type of application. On the residential end of the scale, it tends to be more of the massing, working into the neighborhood, that type. It's basically a different, slightly different goal, but they're both developed in this case out of this zone off of that commercial number.
So does the massing matter? The fact that you produce the massing, does that matter in this case? If you're saying this is commercial?
It's
essentially
treated as a commercial
we should be
property.
reviewing the FAR from a commercial perspective, not a residential.
It's a commercial property. We're working on a residential component on that property. And considering it within, as a element within leading into a residential neighborhood. So in that regard, it is not a specific application on square foot per square foot basis. But it is something more consistent with the scale and massing of the building, and it's the scale and massing that was part of that resolution. But it was specifically tied into the FAR, if I remember correctly. I don't have it sitting in front of me. So I do believe, I mean, from my end architecturally, that part of it is a large, that's a large change from where it was, going from what reads as a 3-story to a straight 2-story from 32 feet to 27 feet. Those are big changes. However, in the FAR, by the ordinance, it's a square foot number, no matter what it is. The FAR, if I were comparing a residential use versus a retail use, so if I want to do retail or office upstairs, I'm now requiring only 28 spaces, another 14 for that, as opposed to the 4 for the residential. All right, well, that's as a comparison of intensity. It's 4 parking spaces for the same square footage. Or if I went to an office use, I had 14 spaces. So it just, I'm saying in terms of the residential aspect of it, yes, it basically is a slightly different animal. In this case, we've got a mixed use. Technically, that's in a commercial zone. So,
But the intensity isn't changing. Right, still 4 apartments, still retail space at the
2
bottom.
apartments.
Sorry, 2 apartments, yes. The intensity of the use of this property is not changing in your proposal.
no, it's not.
Right, okay. And there's no change in the FAR. There are some changes that would make the massing appear better in your view. Is that fair? Yes, okay.
And just so the record's clear, just so I can state this, Mr. Fiore, the FAR for the, I guess for the retail use is 0.56.
Yes.
And the FAR for the residential use on the second floor is 0.76. That's how we come up with a total of 1.32.
Right.
All right, but again, if you were to take them in a mutually exclusive context, the FAR in the B3 zone, I believe, is 0.75. That's the maximum.
Yes.
So we would only be slightly above a de minimis amount from 0.76 or 0.75 for residential use in that zone.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're saying we should look at this as, and look at the FAR for the residential piece and then separately the FAR for the commercial? Is that your-
Well, I think that's probably something that should have happened at the initial hearing.
Okay.
All right. You know,
I assume you
That's
have
not how
case
it
law,
works.
you have
That's
case law
nonsense.
and that supports that.
That's not how FAR works. Stop it.
excuse me. All right. I'm just indicating to you what the FAR was for the two specific uses. This board will be guided by legal counsel as to how they're going to determine that. But the bottom line is that for now, I've shown you, at least through Mr. Fiore, two significant changes, that being the architectural changes, which again were listed as a finding of fact in your resolution, and the fact that we are now providing on-site parking, which we didn't have before. I do have my planner who will briefly cover the reduction in some of the bulk variances, and we'll also be prepared to discuss the FARs.
Very good.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Fiore.
Oh, any questions from the public for Mr. Fiore? Advisor? Please proceed.
Raise your right hand, please. You swear from testimony about to give information receiving truthful, to the truth.
Yes,
Your name for the record, please.
Nancy Weaver Smith.
Ms. Smith, if you could give the board the benefit of your CV qualifications, as a planner.
I am a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey. I have testified before the zoning board, but the planning board for this township several times in the past. And it was approximately 2017 would be the last one before the planning board.
And your license is in good standing.
Yes.
Great, please proceed.
Now, Mr. Fiore has gone over quite a few examples of what the differences are in this application. Mostly the parking and the facade and also the height, which makes a big difference. There are also some other differences in the application. The building coverage, the prior application was 68%, and this application before you would be 61%. The lot coverage is also different. The prior application, it initially was 96.8%, and they did reduce it to 89.9, or approximately 90%. Our application is 87.6% in lot coverage.
Just one sec. Your existing building coverage is 61%,
Yes,
and your proposed is 66.1?
yes. The FAR
Sorry, so the last proposal, it was 68?
68.
68,
And I'm sorry, what was in the last proposal, what was the lot coverage?
the lot coverage, the initial lot coverage was 96.8%, the initial application. And during the review process and the application where it was voted upon was 89.9. So it's 90, basically 90%,
And what's being proposed now?
87.6.
And what's the existing?
The existing is 89.4.
So reducing the lot coverage from the existing lot coverage that's there now.
Yes, we are.
Your drawings say 91.4.
Yes.
And you're achieving that through
It
the
says
6%.
6%.
You're achieving that through the grass paved, correct?
Porous pavement.
And again, has stated the height difference. The prior application was 32 feet, our application is 27. The FAR on the prior application initially started at 1.36. And through the process of reviewing, it was revised to 1.12. Ours is 1.32.
And maybe this is for the architect and not you, but how did it go from 1.12 to 1.2? That's a substantial increase. What happened in the building to make it get?
I actually would have to have the architect answer that.
We can answer that.
Yep.
But we'll do that. It's good that you can continue to just talk about the changes in between the two applications.
That basically is some of the bulk changes in the application. The biggest was the parking, providing parking. And changing the style of the facade to make it more contiguous with the area. And if you also look at the rest of the photos on your plans, you'll see that there's not much difference between the actual height of our building as compared to the parapets in the rest of the buildings on the neighborhood. But what would be interesting is, and I will provide this if we get to the rest of the application at another date. If you took and added residences on all the buildings going on down the line, they would all need FAR. Variances, because they're all one story in accordance. And then they would have to add a second story and it would cause an FAR. If it was enclosing the entire first floor area.
So in the previous resolution, it stated that the proposed improvements, including new, the board is persuaded that granting approval to allow the construction of the proposed second story of structure, resulting in 112.7, 47.44 square feet area, floor area ratio would result in a substantial detriment to the public good and a substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the established zone plan and zoning ordinance of the township. So that was a 50% deviation, you have 74%. So tell me how 50% and 112.7 was considered to be a substantial detriment to the public good, but 132 is not.
It would have to do with the design of the building. Your ordinance states that FAR includes janitor closets, stairways, hallways, all of the things that really aren't used in the residential. The stairway to get up, the stairway to get down. That's really not a part of what a residence is used. It's just an access point. And it's also an access point for the commercial, as the architect said, that this common hallway and this common little lobby area is for both uses. So if you take out all these little nuances and
Like
really,
stairs?
well,
Wasn't the FAR measured the same way in the last application?
I believe so.
Let's check. Right, so now, so it was deemed that 112.7 was a substantial detriment to the public good. And now you're at 132, so explain how 132 is less substantial a detriment to the public good than 112.
I would actually have to have the architect describe what the difference in the square foot area is.
Because the
So
building's
that-
the same height, I mean, it may be the fact that it peaks, but from a zoning perspective, you're not coming for a height variance, and neither did the prior application.
Didn't the prior
Correct, but
application say that?
It is being a substantial change as far as the facade and the look of the building,
Right, but that,
which it has to do with the height. And that was in your resolution as being a very large thing that they did not like.
It also says in the resolution, the board is satisfied that the proposed second story addition can be further reduced in size. Yet you made the size larger.
I'm gonna have my architect indicate the reasons why there's an increase in the FAR. And in fact, if you'd like, I'll do that right now. Want to come up and
From the prior application, it originally started as a 3-bedroom and a 2-bedroom apartment. It was, I believe it was 2 apartments and a larger and a smaller. During the presentation, project, the FAR, I'm presuming the response to comments, was reduced in terms of the actual square footage on the second floor by moving the rear building line forward in the building to essentially take that space out of the FAR calculation. That then went down to, I believe it was I believe there were two bedroom apartments, ultimately. And then that area then becomes roof and it's no longer used as the FAR calculation. However, what they did is then move all the mechanical equipment onto that back roof area. So by doing that, they're taking the mechanical equipment, which was also discussed in the resolution, and putting it closest to the one neighbor that I would consider the residential that I would be trying to stay away from. Where I've been talking about with the massing and things of that nature, the movement of that rear wall took the square footage out of that calculation, but they maintained the elevations on the Glenwood Drive side of the building. Basically, this became a false gable, probably in about that area. They maintained that part of it, so the building massing remained as it was. They just figured out a way to take the portion of the building out of the calculation, but never changed the actual look of the building. So the FAR went down, but the building massing remained the same massing. So from the street, basically everything remained exactly the same. That's
So that was still determined not to be sufficient.
yes.
So how do you get to 132 and that's better?
Yeah, explain how you get to the 132, and I don't think you have to state that it's better, but has there been any change in the intensification of this use? I'd like you to answer that, but why don't you explain how the FAR from the prior application of 1.12 has now increased to 1.32?
It basically returns it back to what was originally, most like closest to what was originally presented in the prior application. The intensity of the 2-bedroom use, I would have said, or if I made these at some point, if I took 100 square feet, I'd be one. I can still maintain a 2-bedroom apartment. The FAR would go down, but essentially the intensity of that use, if it's a actual utilization consideration, still a 2-bedroom apartment. So that type of consideration hasn't changed. And in the prior application, by reducing the square footage but maintaining the visual massing of the exterior of the building, they haven't also changed out essentially that scaling and massing of the building, which effectively I would still say is a component of an FAR. That's the intent to scale a building or use to a neighborhood. So we have been doing the maintaining the square footage. I still get I get a higher FAR, but I'm getting a smaller massing and scaling of the building. The property is a unique property. Obviously that's not necessarily what we're talking about for the Red Street Palace. But in terms of scaling of the building relative to other properties, it is very similar to what is out there. There are other 2 stories. There are things of very similar scale buildings. It's just in my perspective, looking at architecturally, I'm looking at that FAR and trying to tackle the massing to have something that's more appropriate for the neighborhood. To reduce the square footage and keep the wall, don't know that there's actually a benefit to anyone other than I've reduced that number. In this case, I'm not trying to hide the number, I'm not trying to, you know, put up a false wall. I'd rather I would have recommended do the full second floor, reduce the volume of that massing. And it gives me an opportunity to have a roof that I can relocate mechanical equipment away from the residential properties. I can screen it, you know, things of that.
So that, I understand that. I think that's logical to me. So even if we don't count the extra 0.2 that you now added in for reasons that make sense, I guess. You're still at the same place you were at the time of the last application. From an FAR perspective. And I understand your point about the massing on the outside. In your judgment looks better. But you have the same FAR. The same application. No, I'm saying if you.
I'll move the walls.
Forget the 0.2, he's got a legitimate reason for adding the 0.2. If you don't credit that, you say he's still at 1.12, I'm saying nothing has gotten less intense or less FAR.
No, I agree with you.
Right.
Yeah, the FAR, right, even if you
And the
accept
intensity
Mr.
of the
Fiore's.
use has not changed.
Well, the intensity of the use has not increased, let's put it that way. No,
Okay,
It has
fair
not
point.
increased. It
Fair
has not
point.
increased. And again, I don't want to belabor the point, but the other significant changes we have made.
Understood,
And you'll
we'll have to weigh all of
You'll have
that,
to weigh on.
but in terms of intensification, it's no better, no worse, it's the same.
Yes, I would agree
Okay,
with that.
FAR is, being charitable to your argument, is no worse.
Correct.
It's the same.
It's the same, I agree.
In fact, it has gone, but. Okay,
There's a
if
reason
I'm
for
giving
that.
you the benefit, I say it's the same. Okay, just
Okay.
one.
No, I won't argue with that.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Fiore. I just have one question of my planner, if she can come up for 1 second. And then I continue with that one, Mr. Chairman. Now, I know you're familiar with the case of Bressman versus Gash, 131 NJ 517, it's a Supreme Court case, which really deals with the issue of res judicata. And in determining the differences between two applications, the Supreme Court, and tell me if you agree with this colloquy, that basically there has to be a showing of sufficient differences in the present application to support the board's finding that the application would not be barred by res judicata. Now, in the Bressman case, interestingly, the only change that was made in the second application was the addition of additional landscaping, additional buffer. In this scenario, where we've now incorporated, obviously on-site parking by way of the easement, we've gone from 0 parking spaces to 5. We know that we need 17, but we have the availability, at least according to the police department, purchase permits for the balance. The fact that we scaled the massing of this building and also that we have changed the design facade. In your professional opinion as a planner, are those sufficient reasons to indicate to this board that res judicata should not apply?
Yes, I totally agree with that.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything further, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone from the public has any questions or comments regarding this application? If you do, please come forward with what you've heard today. Any further questions for either one of the professionals? Then I will close the public portion regarding res judicata.
And Mr. Chairman,
Would you want to sum up or?
Yeah, I'm gonna sum up just real quickly and
that's
just
fine.
one last thing also. I know we got some reports from the professionals. I just want to make sure that they're incorporated into the record. There's a report from the Millburn Police Department dated November 4th of 2025. And again, understanding that we require 17 spaces. The Millburn, I'm quoting, the Millburn Police Department would recommend that part of the applicant's plan include the development of more parking spots on the property. Obviously, we know it's not feasible. Or the commitment by the applicant to mandate that future tenants of the property purchase 24-hour parking permits we will agree to obviously provide those additional parking permits. If in fact, this board does determine that res judicata does not apply, and then we will proceed forward to a full hearing. There's also a report from from Captain Michael Adebato, fire official. He's made some recommendations here. There are 9 recommendations. We'll comply with all of those. There is a memo from your forester that indicates, I have no comments at this time. It's dated January 15th. I have no comments at this time. Their landscape plan exceeds requirements. And finally, there's a report from Martha Callahan, Township Engineer, who has recommended that we don't need to provide dry wells on this property. We'll agree to that. Has made some general comments about doing any work that requires a road opening permit. And then in terms of recommendations, has made 3 recommendations. Concrete sidewalks and curbs should be replaced along both frontages. We'd agree to that. New Belgian block curb should be placed on the Glenwood Drive side along the length of the property. The curb alignment must be approved by the Township Engineering Department prior to construction. We'll agree to that. And then finally, the grate and curb piece on the drainage inlet on Glenwood should be replaced to meet current NJDEP standards. So with that said, we will certainly comply with those reports. Just in brief summary, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I think we have established that there are sufficient differences between these 2 applications. I don't want to belabor the point, but again, we've provided on-site parking where we had none previously. We've reduced the mass of the building. We have made changes to the architectural facade. There have been reductions in the building coverage from the prior application from 68% to 61%. There's been a reduction in lot coverage from 89.9% to 87.6%. There's also been a reduction in the height of this building, which I guess goes to the issue of massing. We do recognize that the FAR has increased. That again has been explained by Mr. Fiore as to why that increase occurred. But the bottom line is that we have not increased the intensity of the use on this. It's still proposed to be 2 2-bedroom apartments. And we do have sufficient parking on site to satisfy the RSI use. So with that said, Mr. Chairman, I respectfully request that the board determine that res judicata does not apply, that you permit this matter to proceed forward to a hearing for preliminary and final site plan, D4 floor area ratio, use variance relief, and whatever bulk variances are necessary.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, I will close public portion. Board members, what are your thoughts?
Can I hear from the attorney again what those
Yeah,
5
absolutely.
criteria are?
Criteria here is with whether or not this application is substantially similar to the last application. Whether or not we have the same parties involved.
We do, right?
Correct.
Yes.
There must have been an
No, it's not the same parties. No, it's not the same parties. This is a new.
Well, it's an LLC.
I'm sorry, new applicant.
Well, it's the same applicant for their previous.
Yes.
So it's
the same.
It's different name, same.
Right.
You must have adjudicated the first case on the merits.
It's a different ownership.
Oh, I'm sorry. Different owners.
Yes, different.
In adjudication on the merits of the first case, there was a vote on it. The application involves the same cause of action, same, it's a 2-bedroom apartment on top of the existing building. And whether there have been any substantial changes in the application itself, or the conditions in the surrounding property.
The change in ownership would only be, I assume, relevant if it had some relevance to the property, right? I mean, just the fact that it's somebody else, I would assume, doesn't change anything with respect to what the board found was problematic about the proposal the last time. Or am I wrong? Just by virtue of the fact that there's a different person before us.
Well, if it's a different person,
that's a factor to consider.
it could be a factor to consider. Everybody gets their day before the board, new application. Now, question is, And if it's relevant, did they purchase it knowing that it's already been denied?
I don't public record.
It's supposed to be the same parties, the same parties. If board decides that they're different parties and to allow this applicant their shot. Other than that, you have to decide whether or not this is a substantially different or substantially similar application.
So if a party came with the same application and this applicant is arguing that they had made potential changes, but if a party came with the same application, why would they get another chance?
It's not the same application. Not the same applicant.
I mean, it's the same application, it's not the
Same
same
app-
applicant.
Same applicant would not be the same, if it's the same
No,
applicant.
I understand, I'm saying if it's a different person coming, but with exactly the same proposal. Right, why, I guess you're saying we could say they get a shot too, but they would be arguing exactly the same
That's
plan.
why we're here right now.
Right?
They're arguing the same thing, but it is a different applicant,
Understood, all right, so we can consider it.
yes.
Right, and that's what we as a board are trying to determine if the application
It's substantial.
is
That's,
substantially different.
that's the real question.
Any guidance on what's substantially different?
Well, I mean, we've got reductions in lot coverage and building coverage from the previous application, both under 2% changes, 1.9, 1.4%. And the size of the actual apartments has gone up 1,293 square feet to 1,308 square feet. And obviously the FAR we've discussed, it's gone, previous application at the low end was 112, 1.12, now we're at 1.32 in
Yeah,
FAR.
so I made it a lot bigger, so it's substantial.
But
So when I look at those, I look at those and I say, you get a separate parking is not per se. There's a couple of small changes on a few things. And there's a major increase in the FAR, at least major in my mind. And so.
Or certainly
some of
not a
it comes
reduction.
down- Yeah, certainly not a reduction.
Right.
And some of it comes down, in my mind, to whether I feel like 5 parking spaces is substantially different than the 17 requirement. And is getting permits enough to kind of say, yeah, it's substantially different requirements.
Well, the other thing I would say about that is that
agreeing to the permits in dealing with the acceptability of their parking variance is not what we're.
Right, okay. But all I'm saying is, does that constitute a substantial? I'm not necessarily asking you for opinion.
Yes or no answer.
But kind of, in our mind, is that substantially enough?
it's less than a third of the parking spaces.
We also have to consider the resolution of the last hearing.
That's where I was
We
just going with
discussed
Yeah.
a lot, whether the tutor is a significant part of that, whether the parking is a significant part of that decision.
The concern I have here is strictly when we read off the old resolution, where we've determined clearly that 112.7 is a substantial detriment to the public good. So it's hard to say now that 132 is somehow less substantial or beneficial. A detriment. 50% was the deviation prior, and now we're up to 74%. So it's a massive deviation. I'm just struggling to see where this project is somehow substantially different than what was already denied. And to say that we're having 5 parking spots, I struggle with that, as 12 still need to be put on the township to solve the private property's problem. And once again, permits are great, but permits are access to parking. Permits aren't actual parking. Those lots sell well in excess of the number of spots.
I don't know, I mean, I just don't know that parking changes is a really material change in the application. I think it's a change and it's obviously better, but it's not, to me, the fact that the intensity of the uses and the FAR, which not only has not gone down, has gone up, and I understand the reasons for it, but, hasn't gone down. I mean, there's been no effort to make it less. And so I don't know how we could say this is substantially different. I was not on the board at that original time. I'm not saying whether I would have this as it was presented at the time. I don't know. But, you know, the reality is there was a decision and it was based on an application that's very similar, if not a little better almost than what is presented today. One could argue. So I don't think there have been substantial changes to justify a finding that rescue house does not.
The ground coverage also is somewhat of an issue. The ground coverage here, I would realize is being reduced, but it's being reduced based on materials. It's not actually being reduced on physical ground coverage.
Yeah.
Township allows grass paving to not be considered in ground coverage, but it's still technically drive a car on it. So
If I could just comment on that, I mean, the state of New Jersey in its best management practices has encouraged all developers to try to use porous pavement to reduce, to produce impervious coverage because it does drain. I mean, that's a mandate from the state of New Jersey.
right, it's interesting because we've actually in this town looked at removing that because of the poor condition it's kept in. And the homes that have it don't maintain it.
I understand, but it is a state mandate under the best management.
Yeah, no, I get all that, but like I said, there's mandate, there's practice. And we found the practice to be very difficult.
Does difference ownership alone be substantiated?
It's an element, but because of the fact that this was adjudicated to an end, and this is the, if you find to be the same application, it could be considered collateral stop format, really could remove that element because it's the same case being prosecuted in the same manner, and it's been done.
Also, our decision was not on the land, they did not own the owner. So regardless of ownership, whether this current owner retains ownership tomorrow or sells it tomorrow after the work's done, the variance will be traveled with the property, not with the owner. So with that,
Oh, can I share?
yeah, I'm sorry,
No, sorry. I'm just speaking for myself. I think I potentially could be compelled to understand the merits of it not complying with race judicata, the way where we could hear an application. I feel like I'm using too many negatives. I think what council had asked us just to get a sense of where we might fall, and I would just sort of reiterate what some of my fellow members said, which is that the FAR is a big concern, is part of our mandate as the zoning board to deal with. And we're beholden to the zoning. This is a B3 zone, it's a neighborhood zone. I think it's an appropriate development type. I think the size of the development is in excess. It's not what I think, it's numbers of what is allowed. I think the idea of residential over commercial is appropriate. However, it's not appropriate given in being in line with the zoning regulations. It abuts on an R6 zone. I think all those things would be taken into account, were taken into account in the prior application. So while we maybe could decide that there are merits to hear the case, I think once we actually get to the substance of the case, I'm anticipating a lot of issues. So, sort of two issues at hand. One, should we open up the case to be heard in general? And two, how would it do? And I'm just giving my personal.
Just so the record's clear, we did notice anyone within 200 feet. I don't think anybody is here this evening. Objection to this application. All right, but I've heard, Mr. Chairman, I think I've heard the sentiment of the board at this particular point. I'm going to request that you not take a vote on this.
Very well.
I'm going to request that you carry it to another meeting for a decision at that point.
If you want to bring us more information.
Well, I'm going to talk to my client, but I know you don't have a full board this evening. I mean, realistically, I would be for affirmative votes.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend voting. This
Right, so I don't think I have that now. And even if I had 7, I may not have it, but that's something that, well, no, it's not a use variance. It's just.
So that they are very.
No, no,
Oh, you're talking about
Talking
the
about the
ratio
ratio
judicata.
judicata, yeah, not about the ratio. judicata. Yeah, so ratio judicata, I just need a majority. So
Yeah, when you're talking about the number, what you're,
that's all right, okay. All right, so respectfully, I'd ask that it be carried to another date.
What? I mean, obviously, we'll keep it on the record so that, or, you know, keep it live so you don't have to renotice.
Yes.
So, do you wanna put it on for the next, do you wanna? I mean, what's your intention, to come back with something or
I don't
to?
know. I'm
Okay,
gonna
so,
talk to my client.
fine, so let's put it on for the next meeting, okay? And if. No.
Well, you just put.
Oh, sure, put that on. Well, no, that's
No, no, no,
27.
put this one on. I do notice. March 16th.
Okay, so we have an attendance issue with that one, but do you think you're gonna be heard, or do you just wanna?
Well-
Memo purpose.
I think I want to speak to my client and our team, and if there was gonna be a full board here, maybe I would ask for a vote.
You're not gonna have one that day either.
Yeah, we have two options.
What's that?
Regina's here.
That's the.
Regina will have.
She'd have to
Yeah,
listen.
she'll come on. Get up to speed.
put it on just for scheduling purposes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
all right.
let's do it for that.
So what day will that be?
March 16th, the next, I mean, that's 2 weeks, I don't know.
What's the meeting after that?
April 13th.
Okay, let's put it on.
Let's do that? Okay. So, this matter will be carried till April 13th, there'll be no further notice, needed, and any further materials, if you wanna present that date, make sure you have it there within 10 days.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you.
That's the annual.
It's not.
Annual report discussion.
I sent it to everyone.
Yeah.
Did anybody have any comments?
I can just comment on because it said that we have all meetings here.
Oh, right, but I mean like, as far as when you pay, that we got variances for, well, 18, that's.
I was like, so, last year. So real quick, before we end here, still on the agenda, we have the annual report for 2025. It was circulated. Are there any corrections or changes that need to be made based on what you folks saw last year with what Beth has noted regarding location and everything else?
No, that wasn't.
So typically in the past,
typically just.
yeah, like it's just like things that we see on a regular basis, like whether it's like see an exceptional number of steep slope disturbance, maybe we this, that, we see an exceptional number of whatever, that's typically what it goes.
Well, I think we see a lot of side yard variances, but the law is, properties that.
You
have
characterize,
parking to
you
start.
characterize
Yeah.
some of them. Right, yeah, it was some of it was that.
And it's merely just if the ordinance makes sense to take this, that's really low. Yeah.
The review committee, I mean, the zoning.
No.
Proactive.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, more pages.
I know.
So with that, anything that's not on the agenda this evening that I'd like to discuss, please make a note. No one is in the audience. So with that, can I have a motion to adjourn? Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
How do you?
So, right.
Every day.